As Congressman Anthony Brown, Democrat from Maryland, vice chair of the House Armed Services Committee. He worked closely with Bill Taylor, who runs the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, was also, Congressman, featured in those released text messages with Gordon Sondland, who we're talking about. So let me ask you this. You and I were supposed to be talking as Sondland was testifying or being deposed behind closed doors. That's not happening. So what is your next step here?
Sure. First of all, it's not a surprise, although it's disappointing that Ambassador Sondland is not testifying. It seems like he wanted to testify, and he's now being blocked by the administration. And I join my colleagues who call for his resignation, if that's what it takes. Just as like last week, Special Envoy Volker resigned. He's no longer part of the administration. If that's what the ambassador needs to do to testify, he ought to do this. This is another example of how this administration has stalled. They've obfuscated and confused. They go on the attack, and then they repeat it time and time again. But under the leadership of Adam Schiff, I mean, we are going to continue. We're going to continue to call on witnesses, call for documents, go to court if necessary, so that the American people get the facts and the evidence as to why the president jeopardized our national security by leveraging a foreign government official, the president of Ukraine, to investigate an American citizen, Joe Biden, who is President Trump's political opponent.
So you are calling, Congressman, on Ambassador Sondland to step down, to resign from the State Department altogether. By our NBC News count, only about a dozen other of your colleagues agree with you on this. If, in fact, Sondland's resignation would allow him to be more candid in front of Congress, why hasn't there been a critical mass of your colleagues calling on him to do so?
Well, remember, this has just unfolded in the last 35 minutes, and I suspect that more and more Democrats, and I would hope Republicans, would join the chorus of people calling for his resignation. He needs to put the American people above President Trump's political agenda. This notion that the White House is going to control the process in the congressional oversight of wrongdoing by this president is absurd. We've got a process in place. We've got a House Intelligence Committee under the leadership of Chairman Schiff that are demanding that people and documents come to Congress, come before Congress, so the American people understand why did President Trump withhold military aid to a country that is being occupied by Russia, one of our chief foes. Why did President Trump withhold aid? Well, we know from a summary of a transcript, we know from a credible and urgent complaint made by a whistleblower that it had to do with advancing President Trump's political agenda, which was to prevail in the 2020 election. The American people deserve to know. Ambassador Sondland has important information. If he needs to resign, he should. I'm calling on his resignation, and I'm certain that more and more members of Congress will do the same in the next few, in the time to come, the next few hours and days ahead. Do
you believe then, do you agree with Chairman Schiff that what the administration is doing amounts to obstruction?
Absolutely. I think it does. If you look at, the 1973 articles of impeachment against President Nixon, when you obstruct Congress's effort to conduct its investigation, that very well can amount to an article of an impeachment in and of itself. If the president has nothing to hide, and he claims that he doesn't, he said he had a perfect conversation with the president of Ukraine. If that, in fact, is true, if his motives were sincere and honorable and lawful, then the president ought to allow all of the members, current and former, of the administration who have knowledge of information that's pertinent to this issue, allow them to come before Congress, and don't prevent them from appearing before Congress.
I want to ask you before I let you go, the Washington Post, I know you've seen, is reporting that your colleagues, House Democrats, are considering some rather extraordinary measures to keep the identity of that first whistleblower secret if he or she were to testify behind closed doors. Things like masking or disguising their voice, their face, moving this person to a remote location. Congressman, why, in your view, do you think it has to come to such extremes?
Well, in large part because of the president's misconduct on this score. He has already characterized the whistleblower as a spy, a traitor. He's alluded to the treatment of spies and traitors from past centuries where they were punishable by death, and to send that signal, that has a chilling effect on this whistleblower and future whistleblowers. So it's important that Congress protect the identity, the confidentiality, while at the same time get the important information that we can from the whistleblower so that the American people understand